Friends, welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's not difficult for you, but it's nice for me, and we're starting. My height of 178 centimeters and weight of 82 kilograms were replaced by a height of 190 centimeters and a weight of 98 kilograms. The only problem was that my successor wasn't as good as me. Do you know what it feels like to be beaten and insulted by such a big man? Well, Susan knows now, and maybe she has some remorse. It's in vain, because she's the last person in the world I'll ever feel sorry for. Moreover, she no longer looks as amazing as she once did. Sullen eyes, as a rule, spoil the beauty of the face. I take another sip of my drink and look at my watch. 11:22. 18 minutes since I last watched it. The living room is almost hidden in darkness. The curtains are drawn. I like the darkness. I can get lost in it, and nothing can harm me there. That is, nothing but a wife with secrets. I had been divorced from Susan for 3 years when I met Beth. She didn't look like Susan at all. With a height of 155 centimeters and a weight of 46 kilograms, she was 15 centimeters shorter, 18 kilograms lighter, and attracted me from the very beginning. I lie to most people about how we first met. I came up with a romantic story about how we bumped into each other while buying Valentine's Day gifts for our loved ones at that time. How we drank coffee in a cafe and haven't left each other's side since that night. It was actually a blind date arranged by my sister. "You need to go out and meet another woman," she scolded me. "Do you want to stay single for the rest of your life?" I didn't want to, but I wasn't the most trusting person when it came to members of the opposite sex. Too often, the women I dated lied, and I wasn't in the mood to be cheated on by another one yet. So I was a little picky about who I was dating. Beth was from American Insurance Corporation, where my sister Vicky worked in the internal sales department. Beth was the personal assistant to the head of marketing, a 40-year-old woman who would eat her children if she found someone stupid enough to want to breed with her. After I met her just once, I didn't think there was a man in the world who would take on this task. At least not any sane man. Beth just showed up one day at a private barbecue party at Vicky and Dave's house. She was cute, petite, and had a big smile on her face when my sister came over to introduce us. We seemed to be pushed towards each other all evening by everyone there. "Don't you feel like we've been set up?" "What is it?" she asked after we were strategically placed next to each other at the table. "What was your first clue?" I asked. "The blood test that was taken from us as soon as we entered, or when we were handcuffed to each other so that we wouldn't get lost? What about the priest with the prayer book who's been staring at us all night?" Beth asked with a muffled laugh. Although it was nice when Dave handed me 2 tickets for a Caribbean cruise and wished us a pleasant honeymoon. "You're kidding, right?" Beth asked. "I mean, he didn't really do it, right?" "No, but he mentioned that he and Vicky had a great time on a honeymoon cruise and that they wouldn't mind going on another such cruise. Sister or not, they're not going on our wedding cruise. I'm not going to share my honeymoon with anyone but my husband." She paused, blushed a little, and clarified. "If I get married, of course." The evening was starting to get interesting. We were good. Beth and I were a heaven-made couple for at least the first 6 years. And yes, we spent our honeymoon on a ship in the middle of the ocean. We left our cabin a total of 8 times. One was mandatory. They called it a gathering, and the other 7 times were to dance in one of the 4 nightclubs on board after dinner. My fiancé loved to have spontaneous fun. Thank God. It slowed down after about an hour when I shouted, "Mercy," because I wanted to make sure that I had enough energy for what was going to happen later that night. Now there are doubts. With a boy and a girl, we decided to settle on 2 children. I would like to say that life was perfect, but what is marriage really? We had disagreements, but they were not serious, mostly about the trifles of everyday life. Making love didn't suddenly stop overnight, and we even talked about our plans for retirement years in the distant future. I noticed a change just before our 7th anniversary. I'd like to say it's been an itch for 7 years, but it's not. We still made love 3 times a week and had almost no money problems. We talked about everything all the time, and I even went so far as to ask her if anything was wrong. As in any other similar story, she told me that nothing had happened, but there was something. At 41, I was not a naive child. Unfortunately, I've already been through this. A man can figure out that something is wrong if he just opens his damn eyes. The problem was, I didn't know what it was. I didn't follow her in an unmarked car or a rental car. I didn't hire a private investigator, and I didn't even bug our house or our phones. I was just watching a woman I thought I knew as well as I knew myself. 15 minutes before midnight, I heard the garage door open and close. I heard Beth come into the kitchen and then into the living room, where I was still sitting. My drink is already over. You came home late from the club today, I said, watching as she jumped in surprise and turned on the overhead light. I thought you and Katie were just going to have a drink or two, that's all. You scared the hell out of me, Steve. What are you doing here? I'm waiting for you, was all I said. Well, I'm here. Go to bed. It's late, she said, waited until I got up, and only then turned off the light. After that, it was our typical night. We undressed. I didn't notice any telltale marks on her body, even though I watched her brush her teeth and floss. Do you want to fool around before going to bed, or is it too late? Beth asked. Tomorrow is Saturday, so we have the whole weekend to do it. I replied to her. I'm tired. How about we just cuddle today? The first time is for everything that hasn't happened yet. This was my first rejection of a love session, and this fact did not go unnoticed. Is it because of me? What is it? She asked. No, I just have a lot on my mind. But if you want it so badly, I'm pretty sure I can do it for you. No, you're right. It's late, and a little hugging is just what the doctor ordered. We hugged, but neither of us fell asleep for the next 2 or so hours. I listened to my wife's breathing and even felt her eyelashes on my face as she opened and closed them. She knew that I guessed there was a problem, but she didn't say anything. We didn't make love on Saturday or Sunday. It seemed like everything just happened that way. She didn't push, and I didn't show any interest either. We studied a lot with the children, but when we were alone, it was like a veil of something appeared between us. I think Beth wanted to say something a couple of times, but when she opened her mouth, she closed it and looked away. The guys understand. For me, it was something in her eyes. The only questions I had in my head were who and why. To be honest, I didn't want to know, but actually I needed to know. My only problem was that I was afraid to ask my wife directly. The job sucked for the next 2 weeks, but not as bad as my home life. Our 3 times a week were reduced to maybe 1, and it was shitty. I think a man can handle almost anything in a marriage except cheating. It eats you up when you end up doubting your manhood. I know it was like that. Do you mind if I go to the club on Friday after work? Beth asked Wednesday night after dinner, when we were tidying up the kitchen before going to bed. Are you going to be out half the night again? Steve, last time I was at home until 12. Even when I was in high school, I used to walk late. You act like you don't trust me. This question did not keep her waiting long for my answer. No, I don't, and if you want to go, I'll go with you on Friday. She stopped loading the dishwasher and turned to me. At first, she looked like she was going to laugh, but then she realized I wasn't joking. You're serious, aren't you? Are you saying you don't trust me? What do you think I'm going to do? Pick up some handsome young man, take him outside and gouge out his eyes? The loving look is now gone. Maybe. I just feel better if I'm with you. Steve, you're not dancing. You hate dancing, but I love it. That's why I go with my friends, so you don't have to do what you hate. Beth, just think of me as your driver, and let's leave it that way. But there was no way in the world she was going to do that. So let me get this straight. You don't trust me to go out alone with my girlfriends because you think I'm cheating on you? Did I get it right? I nodded my head. So you think my girlfriends are stupid too? I was going to say something nice, like if these shoes fit me, but Beth didn't give me the chance. Well, fuck you. You piece of shit. With that, Beth headed for our bedroom. I heard the door slam. I wonder if she locked it? I got the kids ready for bed, read them both a fairy tale, and made our usual evening preparations before finally wishing them pleasant dreams. I walked across the hall and stood in front of our bedroom door. If the doors are locked, that's strike number 2. I tried the pin. She didn't turn around. I slept on the couch in the office. It was a silent breakfast. The kids chirped and chirped, but Beth and I didn't say anything to each other. With a cup of coffee in my hand, I looked at her one last time and left. At that moment, I wasn't sure if I would come back. I haven't done anything at work for 8 hours. I was sitting at my desk and looking at the picture on the screensaver. It was a picture of Beth and me in Mexico a year before we had our first child. We looked so happy then. I wonder what happened. I was having dinner away from home, alone, and I hated it. The food was good. I hated being alone. Is this really going to happen? I was already starting to feel sorry for myself, even though nothing had completely happened yet. I was distracted by the ringing of my cell phone. Will you be coming home tonight? The message asked. I'm not sure. I'm still considering options. If you're not home by 10, I'll set the alarm. I love you too, I thought. I spent the night at the hotel and sneaked back to my house the next morning, waiting until everyone had left. I packed a small bag with clothes and took all my personal belongings. I didn't know when I would be back, and whether I'll come back at all. I talked to the kids after school on Thursday, but not to Beth. I got a message from her around 3 o'clock on Friday. We need to talk. Will you come home tonight? I thought you were going out with your girlfriends today. I have not received an answer. Hi guys, I said to the kids when I called home around 8 o'clock on Friday. What are you doing? Dad, when are you coming home? We miss you. I'll come home as soon as I can. Just be nice to your mom. Do you hear me? Yes, but she gets mad when you're not around. Is she there? I'd like to talk to her. Aunt Katie's here. Mom's gone. Do you want to talk to her? I didn't think for long. Of course, give her the phone. I love you guys. Steve, is that you? Katie asked. Looks like Beth's gone. I'm sorry. I wanted to talk to her. She asked me to tell you that she'll be home before curfew, whatever that means. Do you want to leave her a message? No. Just tell her I called. I wasn't going to play her game. We only had 2 nightclubs in town, so it didn't take a genius to find her. What really pissed me off was that she ended up in the second one. I spent $10 on the first one just to make sure she wasn't there. The club was packed, the music was deafening, and I had no idea why I was even there. I got a beer from the bar and went looking for it. I found Beth and her 3 friends on the dance floor. The guys they were dancing with seemed to be 10 years younger than them. I watched them for about an hour and a half. Beth didn't leave the dance floor, even when the slow dance was playing. There were a lot of hands wandering over her body, but at least she wasn't making love to them right on the dance floor. I could tell she'd had more than enough to drink, but she managed not to fall over drunk. When a waitress passed by, I stopped her and ordered Beth her usual drink. Tell this lady that she turned out to be a good kitty. I tipped the waitress $20 and left. I was halfway to the hotel when I got a message on my cell phone. Aren't you man enough to dance with me? It looks like the college guys have already filled out your dance card. I hope you use condoms. Fuck off, was her quick reply. We haven't done this for a long time. Well, at least I didn't do it. I turned off the phone. On Monday, I spent another unproductive day at work, and my boss finally told me, Steve, if you're not going to work today, then go home. I'm not paying you to look at your screensaver. I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble at home, I replied. Well, then solve it at home and work while you're here, or you'll spend more time at home than you probably would like. I got the hint, but he was right. I couldn't solve my problem here at work or by texting. At 5:30 in the evening, I went into my house. Beth wasn't home yet. I took my bags upstairs and was putting everything in its usual places when I felt someone's eyes on my back. Yes, I'm back and no, I'm not leaving anymore, I said. When I turned around, she was gone. Finally, I threw my dirty clothes into the laundry basket and went downstairs to try to fight the lioness in the kitchen. Beth, of course, tried to make as much noise as possible by banging pots and pans before starting to set the table. I took a glass of wine, sat down at the kitchen table, and watched her. You could at least help me, she said, turning to face me. What do you want me to do? Well, you can get your ass up, make sure the kids are washed, and help me finish setting the table. Well, since you asked so kindly, how can I refuse? I watched the children while they washed, helped them finish setting the table, and even took the sauces out of the refrigerator. Today we had Mexican food with fried peppers and onions. The children started telling me what I had missed. The rest of the time, Beth and I exchanged glances in silence. It was a long, quiet evening. We never exchanged a word with Beth, but I knew that after the children went to bed, the silence would end, and I was right. Listen to me very carefully, asshole, Beth began to say. I got up and headed for the stairs. Where the hell did you go? What's the matter? She demanded. Get away from you. When you can talk to me respectfully, I'll listen to you, but not before. This time, I locked the bedroom door myself. No matter how hard she knocked, I wasn't going to open it. I didn't know where she slept, but when I walked into the kitchen in the morning, after a shower, shaved and looking damn cheerful, Beth was in a bad mood. "How is everyone doing this beautiful morning?" I asked cheerfully. My children answered with their mouths full, and I kissed each of them on the top of their heads. Beth just stared, throwing daggers at me with her eyes. "If you want to try to talk again, I'll be available tonight, honey," I said. She never answered. It looks like it's going to be another cold day. I returned home a little later, dinner was set, and everyone was sitting at the table waiting for me. Fortunately, I thought to call and warn you that I would be late. The lasagna was cooked superbly, and with a good bottle of Merlot, it was a really good dinner. I hoped the rest of the evening would go the same way. By 8:30, the children went to bed, and I went to look for my wayward wife. I found her in the study. "Are you making the bed?" I asked sarcastically. "Very funny. If anyone should be sleeping here, it's you, not me." "Well, I sleep in my bed upstairs, with or without you." She didn't answer. "Do you want to talk tonight? Or will you just let it go on a little longer?" "I do not know what to talk about. You think I've cheated, but I know I haven't." Beth stood in front of me with her arms crossed. "Okay, then I'll get started," I said, walking over to the bar and pouring myself a drink. "How long have you been bored with our life, or specifically with me?" I sat down in the chair at my desk and just stared at her. She didn't say anything. "Okay, I'll ask you another way. How long have you been looking for entertainment outside of our marriage?" She still didn't say anything, but now she looked a little more unsure of herself. "So, it seems, as before, this is another waste of my time. I'll talk to Rick tomorrow and start the paperwork." Rick was my lawyer friend. I got up to leave. 6 or 7 months, she said when I got to the door. "I've been bored with life for the last 6 months. Is that what you wanted to hear?" "Not quite." I stopped and leaned against the door frame. "Go on." "I have nothing to say. One day I woke up and realized that I was a mother bound by 2 children, and nothing would change for the next 15 years or until the children left for college. Don't get me wrong, I love them to death, but I'll be in my 50s before we get carefree again. I think I just got depressed. I started to remember what had changed by the time these girls' get-togethers started. Well, I'm in the same boat with you, and you can't tell me to complain and look for some strange things on the side. Steve, you're not the kind of guy who would do that. And besides, and don't get me wrong, but you like our life the way it is." She was right about that. "So, what have we come to? Do you want to leave me?" "Mind you, there's no way in the world I'm going to let you have an affair just so you don't feel old and ugly. This will never happen. Steve, I'm not looking for an affair on the side. It's just that once a month I try to relax and prove to myself that I'm still attractive to others. Like the fact that I saw you doing it last night?" "Yes, that's right. I had a good drink, danced my ass off, flirted with a lot of good-looking guys, and returned home untouched." "Technically, you weren't untouched, and I wasn't there when you got home. What if you drink too much and let one of your young dance partners take what rightfully belongs to me?" "That's not going to happen. That's why we're going as a group. Each of us is looking out for the other, so nothing can happen. Steve, we're not going to shoot guys there, for God's sake." "But by your own admission, that's exactly what you're doing. I offered to give you a ride on Friday, but you turned me down, and now I know why. Steve, I only love you, and I want to always be your wife. Are you saying you're ready to spend eternity with a boring guy? If I were you, I certainly wouldn't want this. How about this solution? I'll have Rick draw up the documents, but keep them without suing. You can go to your girls' parties alone. But if something happens, I will immediately tell him to give the documents a go. But if you're not with me, how will you know I've crossed the line?" "Oh, it's going to be easy. I'll hire a private investigator to videotape you during your night out and send me a recording. If I don't like what I see, I'll have Rick file a lawsuit and we can fight in court. But remember, we both signed a prenuptial agreement, and if one of us changes, he loses custody of the children and everything else. I've already been burned once. I went to this marriage with my eyes wide open. Steve, don't you trust your wife?" "No. Don't you remember asking me the same question 2 weeks ago, and what I told you?" "No, I didn't trust you then, and I certainly don't trust you now. This was not something we agreed on. So, in your opinion or in my opinion? In my opinion, this is just a show of respect for a partner and a commitment not to do anything that could endanger our marriage. I think it has something to do with the vows we made about 7 years ago. I hope you remember them, don't you? Neither of us could say anything more, so we went upstairs together in silence and went to bed. Did we make love? Not that night, but the next 3 nights. My family life got a lot better after that. Beth dated her 3 girlfriends and did nothing untoward with anyone else. How do I know that? I don't know. You see, I never hired a private investigator to take them down. I found out the price and it was too high, but I didn't tell Beth about it. Rick had prepared some divorce papers, which I accidentally left on my desk for about a week so that Beth would see them for sure. Now I go to dinner and dancing with my wife at least once every 2 weeks. Yes, I said dancing. We signed up for a pair of salsa classes. You see, after Latin dancing with my wife for an hour or two, she just kills me in bed. I don't think Beth is bored, but if she is, she hides it well. And she was wrong about one thing. I also felt that we were stuck in a routine. And when we were at the mall, I looked at all the pretty women who passed by. Have I ever wanted to go further? Never. I didn't want to be a double loser like my ex-wife Susan. I had the best family a man could ever dream of, and a little weirdness wasn't worth it, no matter how good it looked from the outside. So no one cheated, was a cuckold, or even divorced. It's a boring story, I agree, but sometimes that's life. But who the hell am I to judge how other people live? I have my own life. That's what I need to worry about.